Hello and welcome to Morning Brew on Labour Social. I'm Graham Hughes. It is Monday, the 1st of January 2024. Happy New Year! So it's good when a year starts on a Monday because, you know, it's the start of the week, start of the year, start of a very, very, very big year, a very big and scary year. This is the year where literally everything can change. There are going to be elections, democratic elections, some more democratic than others, but there will be elections in Algeria, Australia, Austria, Azerbaijan, Bangladesh, Belarus, Belgium, Bhutan, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Botswana, Brazil, Cambodia, Canada, Chad, Comoros, Croatia, Dominican Republic, El Salvador, the European Union, Finland, Georgia, Germany, Ghana, Iceland, India, Indonesia, Iran, Ireland, Lithuania, Malta, Mauritania, Mauritius, Mexico, Moldova, Mongolia, Mozambique, there's a lot of M's, Namibia, North Macedonia, is that an N or an M? It's Pakistan, Palau, Panama, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Russia, Rwanda, Senegal, San Marino, Slovakia, the Solomon Islands, Somaliland, South Africa, South Korea, South Sudan, Spain, Sri Lanka, Taiwan, Togo, Tunisia, Turkey, Tuvalu, the UK, the US, Uruguay, and Venezuela. Wow. That is 65 elections this year. And some of them a little bit more important than the others. But it's a huge worry because although it does look very much like the Tories are going to get battered in the upcoming election, which is fantastic and awesome, and we should all be celebrating that because, you know, after 14 years of absolute incompetence, criminally bad incompetence, the Tories should be sent back into the hole from hell from which they came. However, in the US, things are looking a bit dicey. It's a 50-50 split between an old but competent man, Joe Biden, with an old but entirely psychopathic man, Donald Trump. Now, I don't think Trump should be allowed to stand. And before people go, oh, but you hate democracy. No, he was allowed to stand. He was in 2020, and he didn't win. And he caused people to die as a result of an insurrection that he instigated. So that disqualifies him from standing again. Imagine, right? You qualify for the Olympics, right? And you're going to run the 1,000 meters, dead excited. You start running the 1,000 meters, and halfway through the race, you pull out because you're not winning. You see someone else is winning, someone else is out in front of you. Mo Farah is way out in front of you. You pull out a gun, and you shoot 5 people in the crowd, dead. 2 of them, police officers. I don't think you're going to get invited back to the Olympics anytime soon. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm saying Trump should be in jail for his many, many crimes, and he shouldn't be allowed to stand because he was allowed to stand and he effed it up. If he had just accepted his defeat graciously, although the word gracious isn't in Donald Trump's lexicon, if he had, he could run again. There wouldn't be so much of an issue with him running again, despite his business affairs, despite him, stealing classified information. But it wasn't just the classified information; it was the scheme to put send fake electors to Washington to vote on his behalf. There was the scheme to ring up the governor of Georgia and demand that he finds another 11,870 votes. Very precise number of votes. And he mounted an insurrection. Oh, and also the documents. Don't forget the documents that he had in Mar-a-Lago. He said, have you got any documents? He went, no documents. And then they had CCTV footage of these documents, and the FBI had to raid his house to get them back. Apparently, he showed them to some guy from Australia for £1 million. Anyway, should be held in jail and not allowed his phone. Absolutely. And also, yeah, this morning, Hughes just pointing out there's a tsunami due in Japan, which is there's tsunami warnings going out. It could be a 5-meter tsunami, which is a dreadful way to start the year for the people of Japan. Same shit, different year. The other thing that's happened today, yeah, I'm just looking up about the tsunami one. The other thing that's happened today is that the copyright has expired on the earliest versions of Mickey and Minnie Mouse, which is exciting. I think it's exciting because it means that we can do what we like now. We can make our own blood and honey. Don't do that. But someone was pointing out, framed correctly. Someone was pointing out that what's good about this is we're going to be able to do to Disney now what Disney's been doing for years, which has been taking works from the public domain, like half of it's fairy tales, Hans Christian Andersen and the grim fairy tales that it uses to turn into box office gold. They're all public domain, so it's only doing what Disney did back to Disney. But should stress that it's not a later version of Mickey Mouse, and it can't be made in such a way that people will mistake it for being made by Disney. So that's it, horror and porn. That's the only thing that Mickey Mouse is good for these days. Anyway, not our fault, it's the rules. Anyway, so yeah, 2024, biggest year in history for democracy in terms of people going out to vote. And let's have a look at some of the elections that are going to be taking place. So there's some really, really big ones in there. We've got India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka, all up for election. Now, Sri Lanka seems like a foregone conclusion. Bangladesh. Bangladesh seems like a foregone conclusion. The woman in charge is probably going to stay in charge. Sri Lanka is an interesting one because they had, remember, the presidential palace got stormed. Was it last year or the year before? So the democracy in Sri Lanka is arguably under threat. So it should be interesting to see what happens there. India, I think Modi's going to win. Unfortunately, I don't like him. He's a Hindu nationalist. He's head of the BJP, which is the BNP, effectively, in India. And he's not. He doesn't really care that much about the rights of people who aren't Muslim. People who aren't Hindu. But also, he doesn't really care about Hindus either. He's like Trump. He just plays up to it. Like Trump isn't exactly a Christian. In fact, Trump is pretty much the dictionary definition of the Antichrist from the Bible. Yeah. So not great people to be in charge of anything really. But yeah, I'll come on to Trump in a moment. But those four comprise of over 1.5 billion people. Pakistan should be interesting as well. I think Imran Khan is out of jail now and he's going to be standing, I think, from what I understand. Algeria, I don't think anything's going to change there. Australia are having elections. I don't know if it's a national election though. It might be just a what's it called? A local elections. Let's have a look. Australia, yeah, they're just having Northern Territory general election, Australian Capital Territory general election, and the Queensland state election. So they're just local elections in Australia. But getting back to my list, Austria is having elections. Azerbaijan, that'd be interesting. So let's have a look at the Azerbaijan list. Let's see what's happening in Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan, yeah, they're having a presidential election on the 7th of February this year, which will be interesting because they've just had a war. They just had did you hear about the little war they had with over Nagorno-Karabakh with their neighbours Armenia, which led to hundreds of thousands of people from Nagorno-Karabakh being thrown from their homes and basically having to trudge all the way to Armenia proper, and and now they live in what's now Armenia, and Nagorno-Karabakh is no more. You could call that ethnic cleansing under a different situation. The reason why this has come about, I'm not going to go into it too much, is that both the countries were part of the old Soviet Union, and there was an enclave of ethnic Armenians living in Nagorno-Karabakh, which is a little exclave in Azerbaijan. Didn't matter so much when it was all one country with one set of postal stamps and one diplomatic attaché. But now they're separate countries and they don't like each other because Azerbaijan is Muslim and Armenia is Christian. Nominally Christian. Armenian Christian, sorry, I should say. Good old religion, eh? Bangladesh, I mentioned. Belarus. Now, that's not going to be interesting because Lukashenko has been in charge since forever and he's going to remain in charge, I think. Unless he steps down, which I don't think he's going to do. So it'll be a box-ticking exercise, just like in neighboring Russia, where Putin is up for election again. Do you think he's going to lose? Do you think his biggest rival, Navalny, is not just in jail, but he's just been shipped off to Siberian jail. So he's been in put in ultra jail in the run up to the election. So we can't cause any trouble. Great. Belgium are having elections. Sorry. Oh, that's not cool, is it? That's what happens when you go live after drinking till 3 o'clock in the morning. Happy New Year, everyone. They're having federal elections in Belgium. Bosnia are also having municipal elections. Botswana are having elections, which should be quite cool. Botswana, people don't talk about Botswana very much, but it's actually quite a cool, level-headed country in Southern Africa. One of the few countries that managed to get through the whole decolonization period without falling to civil war or apartheid or some other horrific form of government or tyranny, which was caused by European powers basically messing things up for people and drawing straight lines through people's tribes and separating tribes that speak the same language and bringing together tribes that hate each other and have different religions. Recipe for disaster. Brazil are having elections, but I think it's just going to be local elections in Brazil. But it's municipal elections in the São Paulo mayoral elections are taking place. Over in Asia, we've got Cambodia is having a Senate election as well. We've got Canada is having the elections for British Columbia, New Brunswick, and Saskatchewan, but they're not national. Chad is having elections. Anyone cares? Poor old Chad. Well, don't be mean to Chad, but they're having a presidential election in Chad. Chad is probably one to watch in terms of if anyone cares about what the Wagner Group are doing in Africa to destabilize the region and make sure that people die violent deaths, because that's what they do. Let's have a Comoros. Let's skip through a few of these. The European Union elections are going to be interesting because obviously there's a resurgence of the right across Europe, whereas in the UK it seems like the right are in retreat. Seems that way. Anything can happen. Anything can change. But the fact that Viktor Orban was re-elected recently in Hungary and he's a monster. But there is a bright cloud on the horizon, which is that at least in Poland, they got rid of the PiS party, the PIS party, and now Donald Trump is their lead. Donald Trump. Sorry, it's early. It's Happy New Year. Happy New Year early. It's Donald Tusk. God, that was embarrassing. Someone rewind the tape. Delete. Edit it. Cut to commercial break. So there's also elections in Europe. There's local elections around Germany. There's going to be a presidential election in Finland. There's going to be parliamentary elections in Croatia. There's going to be elections in presidential elections in Lithuania. There's going to be a supposed election in North Macedonia for the president, but also for the parliament. But we don't have any dates on that yet. And then, the big one for us, let's get into it, is the United Kingdom. So this year they have to have an election. They could try and hold it off till January of 2025, but that's very, very, very unlikely. Most likely they're going to go in May. There's a couple of reasons for this. One is that people don't mind campaigning in May. You don't want to have an election in the middle of winter if you can avoid it. If you're on the back heel, do not agree to an election in December or even November. It's cold. People don't want to go out. People don't want to stand on their doorstep in the dark while all the heat gets out of the house and talk to a complete stranger about why they should vote for X, Y, Z. They don't want to do it. People don't want to do that at the best of times. But people certainly don't want to do it in winter. The only time you would do a winter election on purpose is if you knew that your opposition didn't stand a chance and it was an easy way of gaining a lot of seats very quickly. But that's not the case this year. Graham, lovely new hat. No, it's not new hat. It's not even a clean old hat. But thank you. We have some elections every year, Graham. Same procedure, says Jupp. Okay. Well, sorry. But added to the list. Look, it's an interesting list. I think it's interesting. Come on, there's a lot of countries on there. There's 65 countries having elections. I know some of them are local elections, and municipal elections, mayoral elections. But I mean, that is an insane number. More than half the population of the world, I think, are going to be voting this year. Half the population of the world can go to a voting booth and vote. Whether they do or not is another matter. But yeah. Anyway, so May elections looks the most likely, although it's up to the Prime Minister because they backheeled the Fixed Term Parliament Act. So now basically the government can just say whenever it wants to have the election at the time that is best for the government, not anyone else, not democracy, and not the people. But it's really important that we vote this year if we can. And don't forget your ID, because you need voter ID. Another thing that, not the people who are engaged in politics know this, but the people who are not engaged in politics and are just going to turn up at the polling booth and want to vote because they just vote once every 5 years or so, they're going to be pissed. They're going to be quite rightly pissed because they're going to be like, hang on, what's happening here? Why do we need ID? The local elections last year showed that over 26,000 people were turned away from voting because they didn't have valid ID. It's an absolute disgrace. It's a disgraceful system that the Tories have brought in because they're disgraceful people. And they're going to do every dirty trick in the book to cling on to power. No doubt something will come out about Starmer's murky past. That time when he befriended a mermaid or something. And she screamed and all the windows shattered. That time when he made a wish and it made him big. That time when he busted some ghosts. That time when he went back in time in a DeLorean. Bastard. That time he did. There's going to be a lot of stories, I think, coming out in the press about terrible things that Starmer's done. The thing is, Starmer's a bit like Hillary Clinton in this respect. He's really boring. He's a nice guy, but he's just not that interesting. Do you know what I mean? He's just, I want him to be Prime Minister, obviously. And I'm very supportive of the Labour Party, and I think he'll make a great leader. I think he'll make a great Prime Minister. However, he's a bit boring. But I like that. I like the fact that he's not that interesting. I don't want anyone charismatic running for high office in this country because, let's face it, the people who have that kind of charisma, like Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage, they're not good people. They're dreadful people. They're awful people who smash things up and tread on people and leave a mess for other people to clean up. So yeah, I want to get back to boring. Get back to boring, baby. Oh yes. But yeah, it's very important that we vote. And also, if you live in a constituency where Labour don't stand a snowball's chance in hell of winning, please vote tactically. Please do vote tactically. Please vote. Please make your vote heard. Just get out there and vote. Even if you're going to spoil your paper, just vote. Please don't spoil your paper. It's too important. And so those who you will meet who will say, oh, the parties are the same, I don't want to bother voting. Just say to them, well done you for having the privilege of knowing that you will survive another 5 years of this shit. But the fact is, there are millions of people in this country who will not survive another 5 years of this shit. The Tories are putting a wrecking ball to everything we know and love in this country. Not least the NHS. They can't manage anything. They can't run a bath. They can't organise a piss up in a brewery. Maybe a piss up in number 10. That's about it. To quote Hitchhikers again, to summarise the summary, anyone capable of getting themselves made president should on no account be allowed to do the job. Yeah, indeed. It's one of my favourite lines in Gladiator where he says, Marcus Aurelius says to Maximus, the leader of the Northern Legions or whatever it is, I want you to be the leader of, I want to go back to a democracy. I want to go back to, the Roman democracy of the olden days. I want you to be the leader. He says, I don't want the job. He says, that's why I want you to be the leader. That's actually a good line, I don't want to do this. Oh, but you have to. Oh, okay then. Rather than people who are power-hungry lunatics who want to destroy the world. Anyway, so moving on. It is 9:54 now. And we're going to just quickly mention again the elections in America. So this is going to happen in November, but with American elections, people talk about them for like 2 years leading up to the elections. It used to do my head in as a kid, and it still does my head in now. Like all you will hear this year on any news story about America will be somehow connected to the elections. The Oscars will be connected to the elections. There'll be celebrities doing silly things, taking drugs, and they'll be connected to the elections somehow. It'll tell you which way they vote, because it's very important that we all talk about the elections for 2 years before the actual damn elections. But it is interesting in America. They have made it very, very, very difficult for some people to vote, especially if they're minorities or, disabled or, don't fancy standing in the queue for 8 hours because they're working. And this is a huge problem in America now with the Republicans and what they're doing to subvert democracy. It's not just Trump's insurrection, but the laws, the policies they've brought in to ban things like postal votes in certain states. It's like, well, why? Because we want people to turn up at the polling office because the voter fraud. There's hardly any voter fraud. Like no one's going to go to jail for that. People might go to jail for killing someone they don't like. They might go to jail for, I don't know, stealing something like a TV or a car. There's a what there. No one is going to go to jail. Like no one's going to risk going to jail to vote more than once. Like, why would you do that? Maybe Trump's supporters would. But Biden's supporters wouldn't. I'm not going to go to, Biden, I love you so much. I'm going to go to jail for you. Although, there's the worry. Trump supporters are very much like the nanny in The Omen who's like, look at me, Damien, it's all for you. And the fact that Trump posted a word cloud on Boxing Day with the words very big in the middle, revenge, and under that, dictatorship. Oh, this is what I'm planning for my next term. Revenge and dictatorship. Yeah, my two favorite words. My God. Remember that American pollsters gather their results by calling people on landlords. How accurate do you think they are? Well, actually, Stephanie, that would be a good question to ask Phil because he's really into his stats. Phil knows his stats. But we'll have a talk about that on the agenda at the end of the week. Unarmed threat, fear of everything, danger, gel stat, political slogan. Gel slot. Indeed. Remember that. Sorry about that one. People who refuse to vote because they're all the same are the ones that are making sure nothing changes. What sensible politician will try to win the vote of someone who won't vote? Well, yeah, Scott, I've come round on my way of thinking with this because I used to live in Australia and over there voting is compulsory, and I thought that's quite right. People died for your right to vote. So you should bloody well give back by voting. However, it didn't always return the people that you wanted it to. And you see this quite often where you'll see like a pie chart and it'll be like, these people voted Tory, these people voted Labour, these people didn't vote. And it's like, these people need to vote. Yeah, they're not all going to vote Labour, mate. That's the thing. If people aren't interested in politics, you can't make them interested in politics and they won't make an informed decision because they don't want to be informed. I mean, they've got better things to do. Some people aren't into politics. I know that sounds weird. That's a strange thing to say on an overtly political YouTube channel, but just like some people don't like football. Some people don't like Formula One racing. Some people don't like fly fishing. Some people don't like Pokemon. It's true. And people who enjoy those things kind of understand that it's not for everyone. Not everyone wants to talk about the footy, although being from Liverpool and travelling around the world, I had to learn a lot about football. I mean, because I'm not that arsed about football. I'm an Everton fan. We never win anything. We haven't won anything since the 1995 FA Cup. That was nearly 30 years ago now. So I'm not that bothered. But everywhere I went around the world, where are you from? Liverpool. Where's on my passport? Are you from Liverpool? I mean, it got me out of some scrapes. Thanks, City of Liverpool. Thanks for me being born there. I was born in the same maternity hospital as John Lennon. Thank you very much. I'm here for the lames to fame. But yeah, I had to learn a lot about football, so just to keep up with the conversation. But people who are really into politics, it's sometimes difficult for them to imagine people who don't care about politics, and they see it as a. And I get this, they see it's like, wow, everything's political and it affects everyone's lives, and how could you be so selfish? And I get it, but especially with young people, I want to defend people who don't vote here for a moment. If you don't feel like you're informed enough to make a decision and go out and you don't make that decision, I think that's a better thing to do, to be honest with you, than feeling obliged to make a bad decision that you're not informed about because you're forced to by the law or because you've been henpecked by people like me on the internet saying you've got to bloody vote. But everyone watching this is engaged in politics, so I expect I would like all the people watching this to vote. I'm assuming you're all going to vote Labour, or at least a tactical vote for the anti-Tory candidate. The thing that's really given me hope this year, and I'm going to have to wrap up soon, but this is the one thing that just absolutely gives me so much hope, is this poll that came out earlier this year, and it showed that the between the 18 and 24-year-olds who will be voting in this next election, or can vote in the next election, only 1% of them, 1% are planning to vote for the Tories. 1%. Oh my word. Anyway, so they can always spoil their vote, says Larry the Cat. Mick saying, what does Mick saying? It's Mick saying to vote. They don't care enough to walk to a polling station, tick a box. I'd focus my message on the people who will vote instead if I were a politician. Well, that's why they go after the older vote. If you're younger, sorry, I'm going to do the papers in a moment, but I'll just come back to Big Graham. When in the when people say about young people, especially not voting, I often think about what I was like when I was younger. And despite studying politics at A-level and university, I wasn't really that into politics because I had so many other things going on. I was young, I was going out partying, I was going to gigs, going to the cinema, I was traveling, I was trying to, get myself a girlfriend, I was trying to, get a job after university, I was trying to set up my own business, I was, there's loads of things that were taking up all of my free time, if you like. I just didn't have the bandwidth for politics at the time. There were too many things going on. Now you think about it, once you're a bit older, and most people watching this channel are actually older, I've seen your demographics. So I got to be very careful when I say boomers. I got to say not all boomers, because obviously the people who are boomers who watch this channel are awesome. But yeah, I do think that there is an issue where older people are more likely to vote because they're bored, and young people are less likely to vote because they're too busy. And one thing that would make this a lot easier would be for elections to be on a Saturday and a Sunday, or just on a or whatever, just on a weekend, rather than on a Thursday. And some people might be working all day, or they've got the kids. Like, you've got a young child at home, and you're a single mom. You can't leave them at home while you go to the voting booth. You're going to take them with you. I mean, it's just, it's difficult if you're a young person, especially a young parent or a young person trying to get ahead in life, to have the bandwidth to put into politics. So I do get that. I just want a little bit of disclaimer there. I'm going to have to wrap up very soon. Just a quick look at the post-ports. No, post-ports? What the hell is wrong with me this morning? Just a look at the papers. A quick look at the papers. We've got this new border plan, which is just going to scan your face as you come in, so you don't need a passport, which is interesting. What about identical twins? How does that work? And then doctors consider air pollution. That's the Guardian there. The Shaps is saying that the UK is ready to attack Houthi rebels in the Red Sea, or attacking shipping, if you say so. This is after the US struck 3 ships, I think. 3 Houthi ships. And then the Guardian is stoking fears. The word fears in there. And they're continuing their trans panic. Just stop it. Just stop it. Bastards. I was thinking about this, like, when I was growing up in the 80s, if you were gay, it had to be everything about you. Do you know what I mean? You couldn't be gay and a great scientist. You couldn't be gay and a great statesperson. Being gay was like the overarching thing that people went on and on and on about, and how people describe it. And it became like the thing that absolutely exemplified that particular person, which is wrong, because you look at someone who's absolutely hilarious and gay or brilliant and talented, like Elton John, or Kenny Everett or Graham Chapman or something. Being gay was just a thing. It was just a part of their life, but it wasn't the main thing that should be celebrated. It's not the main, driving force of their life. And now we're seeing the same sort of. It's kind of like it's not just demonizing. It's dehumanizing of trans people. It's like, this is all that you have. You're trans. That's it. That's the beginning and end of your story. That's why it's so important when Brianna Jai's parents were talking about it. They were talking about her TikTok and her bravery, and what she liked to do, and how good a person she was, because that mattered so much more. Of course, to the tabloids, all that mattered was she was trans. That was the thing that they had to put out there. It had to be, and it's just like, can you just stop it? Just stop the trans panic that they've put out there now, which is horribly reminiscent of the 1980s and the discrimination against gay people in the 1980s, and the advent of Section 28, which I was in school under Section 28. I don't think they got rid of it until 2000. So I left school in 1987. We were not allowed to have a discussion with the teachers about being gay. Just disgraceful, absolutely disgraceful. Mira is saying, give us the choice. This is going to be a big thing, I think. Maybe not in the election, but after the election, to bring in euthanasia. I could see that happening before the decade is out. I hope it is brought in, given the choice, mate. I hope it's brought in. Obviously, it's not for everyone, so there has to be safeguards put in place, but those safeguards can be put in place. The Guardian is stoking transphobia. No, I don't think so. It wasn't. No, it wasn't the Guardian. It was the Mail. We're all doing Wet January, and then Daily Express, the doctor will see you now, but only for 5 minutes. Complaining about the NHS, which they helped wreck by getting their Tory mates into power. There you go. I do think Labour need to change some things in their first term to make it easier to vote, expand postal voting, move polling day, reverse anti-voting measures. Yeah, I agree. I'm bringing PR. This could be the last election where we actually vote against something. So in the last in 2019, and I know that the plural of anecdotes isn't data, but people I know voted Tory. Not because they're Tories. They voted Tory out of fear of Jeremy Corbyn. They just didn't want him in. And this election is going to be very much a negative election as well. People are going to vote for fear of another 5 years of Tory government. And that's understandable. But if we bring in PR, this could be the last election in which people vote out of fear. People voting in a PR system could vote for the people that they want. It's a positive vote rather than a negative vote. And that's why we think it's so important. We've all kind of agreed in our little group of YouTubers, TikTokers, Twitterers, Xers. That's the wrong word, isn't it? We understand that, because we've had loads of conversation about it, that Labour can't really push for stuff like PR, UBI, and rejoining the EU in this election, because it's just it gives the tabloids too much power over them to say, Labour are going to do this and Labour are going to take your precious Brexit away. And that will stoke fear, and then people will vote for the Tories out of fear of Labour being in. Yeah, they voted for Nazis instead of Corbyn because they were afraid. Yeah, they were. I mean, I don't know if they were right about being afraid, but it was stoked by the media. People were genuinely afraid of having Jeremy Corbyn as leader. And he didn't help himself, He did go on the Andrew Neil show and refused to apologise for anti-Semitism in the party. He said, I don't know about that. And even when the report about anti-Semitism came out, he said, it wasn't as big thing as people made out, because it was only a small number of people in the party. And I'm like, there's a murder in a party. It might only be one person who gets murdered, but still, it will spoil the party. Do you know what I mean? Like, everyone's dancing away. 1 in 1,000 people having a dance dies horribly. Kind of ruins the party. You can't just go, it's only one person in 1,000. Anyway, but yes, Corbyn was far more divisive than in 2019 than Brexit, but that didn't stop Corbyn immediately blaming Brexit for his failure. I think he thought he won. He certainly did in 2017. Anyway, right, look, I've got to get going. I've gone over time. It's a bit late getting started, so it's about right. Got an extra 5 minutes of me. So, thank you so much for all your support over the last year. It's been absolutely phenomenal seeing the growth of this channel, and the people who managed to get on, the people who have helped us out. A special mention to Phil Morehouse, who's just been absolutely the stalwart of this channel. We really couldn't have done it without him. He should be back tomorrow morning for Morning Brew at 9:30, so please check that out. I'll be back later on with a moment of truth as soon as I get that written up. And going forward, there'll be loads more shows on Labour Social for you to watch, and we're going to see what works and what doesn't work, and what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy. And also this year, I'm going to make a concerted effort to be using the Discord server more. I can't right now because I got tidy up from the party last night. But yeah, I'm going to make a concerted effort to use the Discord server more after my show. So if you want to continue the conversation in the morning, you're very welcome to do so. If you are a patron or a YouTube member, I'd really recommend that you sign up to it. Now, one other thing before I go. So this year is the 15th anniversary of me starting the Odyssey expedition to every country in the world without flying. I started on January the 1st, 2009 in Buenos Aires in Argentina and crossed over the River Plate into Uruguay, and Uruguay became country number 1 on my list of 200 countries, which became 201 countries when South Sudan became a country halfway through the adventure. At the time, I thought it would take me 1 year to go to all these places. It actually took me 4 years. But there were mitigating circumstances. I still believe that it could be done in maybe 2 years. And maybe sometime in the future I might try again. But I'll have to wait till the world gets a bit less dangerous than it is at the moment. I managed to travel at a bit of a sweet spot between 2009 and 2012 where things were settling down. Unfortunately, it's going the opposite direction now with armed conflicts around the world on the rise. The reason I'm telling you this is that I have another channel called Graham Hughes Travels. It's at Graham Travels if you want to look it up. And I'm going to be putting my videos from my travels, a lot of never seen before footage, up on there exactly 15 years after the original video went up, or 15 years after the original events took place. So one video is already up, which is about me getting to the starting line in Buenos Aires, in which everything that could go wrong did go wrong. So please check that out. The link is in the description below. And please subscribe to Graham Hughes Travels, because the more subscribers we have, the more inclined I will be to make more videos. And also, if Pineapple Boy is watching, I don't think you are, but if you are, Pineapple Boy, this year is the year that I get my second book, Top of the World, about the second year of my travels, written up. It'd be interesting looking back over all that. I've forgotten a lot of it, but luckily I've got my blogs and my videos and my photos to remind me. Thank you for your efforts in 2023. Here's to 2024. Woo! Yes. Good job and a very happy new year. That's in the Biden flavor corn pop. What? And because I think the biggest loss in 2019 was John McDonnell as Chancellor. I'm not optimistic about Rachel Reeves, and Lisa Dodds would be preferable. I think Rachel Reeves will do a good job. I do. I've got faith. Gotta have faith, as George Martin once sang. George Martin? What's wrong with me? George Michael. Right, I better go before I start making any more faux pas and getting people's names wrong. Okay, so thanks very much for watching. Please check out the video. It's in the chat below. And until tomorrow, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.